pay generally is not rising at the levels that people predicted and expected, but that within the nations and regions themselves there's a higher propensity to pay more in Scotland, for example. But that isn't a devolved nation issue, because if you look at Wales, it has a much lower level of median pay, and that's part of a story of Wales having depressed pay expectations and depressed pay over a long period of time. The most interesting trend overall is the fact that a lot of people are sitting on the fence, they're not making a decision, and that's down to Brexit uncertainty, it's down to other types of uncertainty there are around product markets, in particular the impact of technology. Recruitment is fairly healthy, over about 3/5 of organisations intend to recruit, but the outlook is increasingly challenging because there's been a big fall off in EU migration, a challenge around an ageing workforce. There are less young people in the labour market, so it's a real challenge. There's a big challenge around low-skilled vacancies, or vacancies which are sometimes probably mislabelled as low-skilled, but service and retail roles, roles in various aspects of customer service. These roles are distribution, etc. These roles are increasingly hard to fill in many nations and regions as well as nationally, and especially in economies like London and the South East, which have got quite a low level of unemployment and quite a low level of housing mobility. So you can't really move easily to London as you can move to, say, Newcastle or Sunderland or Glasgow. So those are big challenges in terms of the amount of labour available. About 1/5 of employers nationally are saying that they'll be declaring redundancies within the next 3 months. In the north of England, less likely to be in the south, and in Scotland and Wales, but also interestingly London, and we can talk about the reasons for that. They're down to different aspects of the labour market. For example, the London labour market is particularly vibrant, and there's a lot of churn in the London labour market. Firms make quite quick and rapid decisions about moving into and out of different markets. It's the same in the northwest of England, where there's a lot of investment going on around the so-called northern powerhouse. A lot of employment, but that also leads to a lot of displacement of current employment and shifts into other types of employment. In the northeast, it's much more about long-term unemployment in declining industries, not actually, adapting quick enough, and also the challenge of Brexit. That there's a lot of uncertainty which tends to defer investment in jobs. There's a lot of good practice from the nations and regions. In Scotland, for example, the government actually takes a proactive role in anticipating redundancies, and you can do that on a smaller national and regional basis. But increasingly, because regionalisation is a factor in the UK economy, it means that in places like the northwest, the northeast, around London, etc., government can work with employers to anticipate, possible changes in the market, possible changes in demand, and can help to mitigate that. And because there are a lot of employers looking for employees, we can help to shift people into jobs which they're appropriate for. So when firms that, for example, in engineering, go into administration, the Scottish Government has tried to help transition, quite often with quite a lot of success, a lot of the employees into growing sectors at the time, like construction, and parts of the oil and gas industry that were growing, like decommissioning. The Welsh Government has got a similar approach. So there's a lot that can be done by government, but for practitioners in the HR area, we can start to look at the future of the industries that we're in. We can start to get involved in conversations about what the likely changes in the product market, the kind of stuff that your company produces and makes and sells, and how that might affect the skills in your organisation. And that's quite a big challenge, but it's something that we in CIPD think that increasingly is something that needs to be at least not owned, but contributed to by HR working with various other departments.